And we are live with episode 3 with Ethan Suero. How are you, Ethan?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me, bro.
Great. Yeah, it's absolutely lush to have you on the podcast. It has been a while since we last spoke. Just before this podcast episode is being recorded, Ethan and I were talking about the last time we actually the first time we connected. And Ethan said, Jack, you need to commit to Webflow and go for it. But we will get into that in just a second. I'm going to now do my beautiful intro for you, Ethan. So, Ethan Suero is an independent designer specializing in helping startups build stunning brands and digital products that turn users into engaged customers. While he used to focus on brand identities, learning under the logo expert James Martin, and any of you guys follow his Instagram, it's made by James. That's the guy. He has grown his skill set over the years to also become a Webflow maestro. He is a professional partner with Webflow, and he also works part-time at Flux Academy, helping new Webflowers learn about UI UX, commenting on their portfolios and projects. And Ethan also did that for me on my first terrible portfolio. Ethan has 2 awards nominations and has 12 CSS design awards in the categories of UI, UX, special kudos, and innovation categories. He's also worked with different industries, from video agencies to investor groups to Formula 3 drivers. Ethan has experienced a lot in his career so far. However, when someone has had great successes, there has often been great tests and failures to overcome to get there. Ethan is no different, and we'll dig into that stuff today. So how did I do, Ethan? Was everything accurate there?
Yeah, pretty cool. It sounds really cool when somebody else said that because I don't know, it sounds like it's cooler than it actually is. So yeah, appreciate that.
Let me be clear. It is cool. It's not cooler than it actually is. Everything I said was objective truth, and there's no doubt that it is cool. You've come on an insane amount in a short space of time, and you've worked with an incredible array of clients. But before we start talking about Webflow and your failures as a creative entrepreneur, I'd like to just rewind the clock and just can you just give us a little bit of a flavor into how you got interested in the creative industry, and maybe talk about like brand design and kind of where you started that from?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think this was like around 2018 or 17. Pretty much, I was working in a company as customer services, so basically just dealing with phone calls and angry customers. Um, and I was financially free and everything, but I wasn't really happy. I didn't really feel like that I was happy enough with what I was doing. So I wanted to do something else and do something that I really love. It wasn't really about the money anymore. It's just, because it's not all about paying the bills. When you are there, you're looking for something else, and it's not, even if you earn a little bit less money, you're gonna be happier sometimes. So what I did, it's basically to try to step back a little bit and try to figure it out what I like and what I don't like as well. So actually, I didn't went for design. The first step, I actually try a lot of stuff like scripting for video games, like things that was related to video games because I'm also a gamer. So and then from there, I started digging into illustrations, but I wasn't really that good like drawing. But I always liked draw and create things when I was a kid as well. And then I think it was like the logo course, the one that I did back then, just to try it out. I was just trying things, reading books from different type of stuff. It wasn't just I wanted to be a designer. It was just let's find out what I really love and then try to build or make a career out of it. And then after that course, it was like, I just fell in love with design, especially with brand identity or visual identity. And then from there, I started to learn more about, the whole design industry, like many other people, like with the future. And it's when I found out an interview with Ronsegal I think it was Chris' interview in Ronsegal back then. And that's when I, found out about Flux Academy, and then, web design, Webflow, and everything. So decided to invest a lot in the academy, in Flux Academy. And from there, I was just like, learning a lot more, getting to know each other, a lot more people as well that was in the same place. And once I started like not just doing design, because I was like trying a little bit things, even within the design industry, I was like trying to focus and try a lot of stuff, because it wasn't just, many people, they just go for logo design or for packaging or for website. I tried to do as much as possible at the beginning to find out what I love doing and what I don't really enjoy doing that much. Which I suppose is like a way of niching down in terms of the service that you want to offer. And then, I decided to go for web design, like more and more, along with the identity type of stuff, because I was also doing logo. And then, once I learned Webflow, that was like the biggest jump of everything. I don't know, that went crazy, because I started to, earn more money. I was getting a lot of clients, and there was a time that that my full-time role, because I was doing everything on the side of my, full-time role. So I was, working my hours, and then late nights, weekends, and all that. So it was a little bit of a crazy time. But at that time, when I was like getting more busier and busier, my actual full-time role, it was annoying me, because it was actually taking me time of working with clients. And once I get like to the point that I was actually getting more money out of the side hustle, as many people said, it's when I saw that it was really clear that I should switch to that. And then that's when I made the move.
Wow. Okay. You covered a hell of a lot of ground there. So, okay, first of all, you started with brand identities and logo design. You already had a full-time job, but you were doing this all alongside. Then you came across RAN. And where did Flux Academy come in? Because then you started working part-time with Flux. That's how we met. So yeah, I mean, you obviously got good enough at Webflow to jump into that role as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually, I mean, it was recently, I think it was last month, my Flux anniversary, as we say. So yeah, it's been a year already, but I went full-time a little bit earlier. So I was working for a kind of like a part-time or freelancing for an agency once I quit my full-time role, along with some clients that I have. And then, because I saw the opportunity, I've always wanted to work with Flux. It wasn't really because of the money, although, having like an, sustainable amount of income, it's always good, especially when you're starting out. But I've always wanted to work, because I've been like really into the mission that they have, and that I am still am. I think that most of the people, or if not everyone in the team, they share the same opinion. Like, we are not really there because of the money, but because the mission and the things that we are doing for many people. And I appreciate all the comments from the students and everything every single day when they are successful with a client, and maybe I'm a small part of that because I help them with some issues or provide feedback or whatever. So it's always something, it goes beyond like, again, like earning money and building a business and everything. It's something that you're actually helping people to have better lives as well. So I've always wanted to, give back to the community, give back to Flux Academy. And yeah, that's when I saw the opportunity to become a Webflow coach. I just went for it, and back then it was Anna was in the team, and she interviewed me. She's like one of the loveliest person that I've met, and yeah, she got me in. So yeah, it was great.
That's so cool. So in terms of, you quite casually said there that you started learning Webflow and then you started working for RAN and stuff. But the jump, as you said, to learn Webflow is actually quite high. Like you can learn logo design and brand identity design. I would argue slightly easier than learning Webflow and web design in general. You've got cookies and you've got like app building, and there's like all sorts of stuff that is like, okay, there's a hell of a lot to learn. So I mean, what advice would you give someone that's watching now that's just starting out and it's just like, I want to get good at Webflow, I want to get to the place that Ethan's got to? Like, how did you approach learning Webflow, and would you advise other people do that same approach?
I mean, maybe this is going to sound a little bit biased, but I started with the Webflow Masterclass, obviously. And this is actually the principle that I was doing with pretty much everything, because I wanted to get what I wanted to get like as fast as possible. You can always get there for free if you want. So I could have gone to the Webflow University or Academy or whatever it is. But I decided to buy books when I could, get the courses that I needed to, because I wanted to get there really fast. So with the Webflow Masterclass, I think in 2-3 weeks I was already building websites. I wasn't using the right classes maybe, or making mistakes, because I was just using Webflow for less than a month, but I was able to actually build websites. And then after 3-5 websites, you start learning, from other people. You inspect the projects from other people as well. You learn, the wizardry from team or client first or things like that. So that's when you start realizing how the things work, watching tutorials on YouTube, and that's when you level up your game. I think it took me around 2 years to achieve like a really solid level of becoming a Webflow expert, as they call. Not because I'm considering myself an expert, but because you can actually apply for the program and get into the Webflow expert type of thing. And yeah, so in order to get quickly, I will recommend the Webflow Masterclass 100%. Not because I'm at Flux, but because it's what I did. It served me really well. And then from there, once you understand Webflow, you can go for specific stuff like how to do this type of interaction, or this type of layout, or how to work with the Flexbox type of thing, or the grid, or how to make it responsive, how to make it faster, how to make it more optimized, and things like this.
Yeah, and I would second the Webflow Masterclass. I actually did that as well. And I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting commission, guys. I'm just saying it's good.
This is not sponsored by Flux.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting that you say that it took you 2 years to get really good, because I think it's interesting being in the world of Webflow on Twitter, in Facebook groups and stuff. I think there's a lot of people that are very, very keen to just get the big clients straight away. How do I get bigger paying clients? I think is like the top question.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine it's the top question you guys get in Flux as well, but people are literally just starting. So, I mean, this links to the internship that you did with James Martin, the logo designer, because I was reading through your Instagram posts that you'd done about that experience, and one of the comments that you had was that you don't need to get paid loads for every project in order to do what you love. What you need is consistent clients, whether that's one client that keeps giving you work every month, or whether that's just 2 or 3 projects that are slightly less money but still pay your bills and let you do what you love for a living, right? Do you still resonate with that, or are you now like, right, I want to get 20K clients?
You know what? Like my income now, it's really good. So it's not that I wasn't looking for it or anything. I think it just came with the time. So
Mm.
I was getting busier and busier, and when it's easier to close deals or contracts with clients, it's because I think that you are really good and really cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
if you're not getting a little bit of back and forth and doubt with the prices, and it's really easy to get us yes, basically, you have to raise your price. And like I said, I've been like really fast to where I am because I haven't made mistakes, but I haven't made as many mistakes as other people. Because if I learn from somebody else that already walked that path, why am I going to do the same mistakes when I can basically read their books or watch the videos or whatever and learn from them, so I can avoid those mistakes. And that's one of the key things that it took me to where I am like really fast. Because in a couple of, I think I went from knowing nothing about design till full-time freelancer in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was working on the side, so it wasn't like full-time. I was just doing my full-time role and doing this as a side hustle. And in about 3 years, I managed to, escape, as many people say, and become a full-time freelancer. So yeah, that's what I did basically.
So I guess the message for anyone listening is get good at what you do, and when when you're good, consistent clients come. And if it's too easy to get clients, or there's too many requests coming in, or you're just overworking, like if you're working like mornings, weekends, evenings, weekends, like before and after work and stuff, then clearly you're doing a good job, that in terms of the actual work that you're doing. So yeah, like you say, raise it. But I think a lot of people seem to go straight in for like, right, I've done the Webflow Masterclass, how do I get 10K clients like straight away?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I get that a lot, and that's not really how we should be doing or approaching things. Like, you shouldn't be learning Webflow because you want to make 10K. That's going to come eventually, for sure. But I mean, you can still. So the goal, actually, we spoke about this morning in the Flux stand up. Like, it's really difficult to get a project that is going to be worth 10 or 20 or whatever K. But it's easier if you can get two websites that are worth 5,000. So it's the same amount of money, but you have to work twice as harder because you have two projects. So maybe it's three, but eventually you're going to be raising your prices. So at the beginning, you have to work a lot. That's actually one thing that I kind of made a mistake, because I was working like 12 hours, 7 days a week, and I almost got burned out on my first year. Um, but that's how you actually start like building the business, like attracting many clients, raising your prices little by little. You can just go, right, I just learned how to use Webflow, my next client is going to be 10K, because you don't really have a portfolio, you don't have the experience,
yeah,
the service is going to lack that type of quality as well. So there are a lot of factors involved into that price. It's not the end result of the deliverable, it's the whole experience and the whole package that you build for the client and the problem that you're solving as well.
yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of soft skills that people don't have when they become a freelancer. They're like, I can do the work. I know I can do the work because I've been doing it at an agency or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I've got to do marketing. I've got to do sales calls. I've got to, I hate the word network, but you've got to talk to people and tell them what you do and stuff. And the soft skills take, I'd say, longer to acquire, or longer to perfect than, learning Webflow really, really well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really second that. If you are watching this and you are literally just starting out, stop listening to the bullshit on Twitter about trying to get 20K clients and the script you need to download to get 20K clients that I used or whatever. Just do the work and get consistent clients, get consistently good results for them. You're going to be well looked after in the future. Great. I think this segues really nicely into the first failure that you sent me. And when I use the word failure, it's a little strong. We talked about this over Instagram a little bit. When you're starting out in anything, you're going to have learnings because there's going to be mistakes made because you haven't done it before, right? But the first failure or / mistake that you made that you want to speak about was transitioning from your full-time job to freelancing. Now, I'm not sure if you just said challenges I had from switching from full-time role to freelancer. I'm not sure if that means that you felt like you switched too quickly or you just didn't necessarily have the skill sets yet at the time. What do you want to expand on that?
All right. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I wouldn't call it failure because a failure it will only happen if you give up. So the only thing that is going to happen is going to take more or less time, but it's going to happen anyway if you keep at it. So, I mean, in my case, I was, like I said, I was just working. I really wanted to go full-time freelance, not just because of the money. I was actually like worried about that because I just wanted to earn enough to keep doing this. And I wanted to be, free in terms of the flexibility of working hours and everything. The only thing is that when I went full time, that was the first lockdown because of the pandemic and everything. So I was a freelancer. I was flexible, but I could only be at my place at my home, so I couldn't travel or anything. It was kind of like a shitty freelance experience, if I'm honest. But on the other side, in a sense or in a way, the pandemic kind of was a good thing for the people that was kind of already working remote because lots of businesses, they decided to go online. So, the digital services, they were booming. There was a lot of demand. So I don't know if maybe that kind of helped in a way, to build a solid business in terms of, the web design and the digital experiences. Because like I said, a lot of business, they were, if not moving, to a online service, they were like revamping their websites or moving from WordPress to Webflow and things like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think as a freelancer, it was kind of like a double-edged sword, COVID. Like it was insanely isolating. I think freelancing is generally quite lonely anyway, but you can't even go to a coffee shop and pretend you have friends. And then on the other hand, though, there were, like you say, a lot of businesses that were, thinking more carefully about their digital presence. And as a result, from a freelance perspective, there was, it was kind of like a perfect time for work, a bad time for mental health. You kind of had to balance it as a freelancer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that I realized that I needed to do, and again, it wasn't just because I just realized about that, is because I learned from other people like, Christoph, Ron, and other freelancers that they did the same thing. You have to plan everything ahead. And it's not just about getting clients, but you have to prepare a lot of stuff because once you go freelancer the first day, you have to think about that you're not going to get a pay slip at the end of the month. That's, finished. And that's actually one thing that it took me a little bit to learn because we are kind of like educated in a mentality that you're going to get a pay slip at the end of the month because that's how, if you are an employee, you do your thing, 8 hours, then at the end of the month you get paid. But in here, you actually have to, to work in order to make money. And it's not just, finding the clients. You have to keep up with your portfolio, like you said, marketing, building a relevant network, managing your finances, because you have to make enough to pay for the production of everything for your client, but also the bills and everything. So managing everything at the same time, it was kind of like a lot at the beginning, or it was kind of like an overwhelming. So I was just taking one thing, or one step at a time. And if you can't really, that's actually one thing that I do. Or I did. If you can't really go full time because it's like really complicated at the beginning because you don't have any clients, you don't have network or anything. You can always go like little by little, like step by step. Like for example, in my case, I was working a few hours with an agency in London, fully remote. So that was, I think, like 10 to 15 hours per week, which it was enough to pay for my expenses. And then for the rest of the week, I was working on clients and building my business, my portfolio, and everything while learning from this agency as well. So I already had like the financial problem covered, and then I was focusing on the other stuff. And then, it's like quitting your job again because I was working there kind of like part-time. But that's how you kind of go, instead of going from full-time to freelancer, you go step by step. And, depending on your situation, that's how you are, tackle things. If you have to put more efforts into your financials or maybe your marketing or your network and building those things that are lacking at the beginning until you have like a solid ground in order to, you can just go full time and you're going to get like a full stream of clients every month, and which is going to take a while and in any case. So
yeah, I would 100% second that. In fact, this was the advice that you gave me, I think a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, when I was like, I want to be a freelancer. And you were like, oh boy, hold your horses. Like, what you can do is transition to full-time freelancing by, working for agencies part-time. And frankly, if you've got 2-3 agencies that are just giving you clients, you don't need your own clients. Like, you can just do that, and you're not necessarily going to get as big a wages. You're not necessarily going to get paid the full price that agency got, obviously, because they're taking the work, but you might get 30% of the project or whatever it is. But if you've got different projects from agencies and then you can put them on your portfolio, then you've suddenly got like so much more leverage than most freelancers. And this is one thing that's really helped me. Like, I'm not, as little old me, I'm not going to get big projects, but agencies will. But then if I facilitate the projects, I can still use that work on my personal portfolio. I think this is a hack that people don't talk about enough. Freelancers try and get their own clients the whole time, and I always see how to get clients and stuff, but no one ever talks about the agencies themselves acting as, a retainer client for you. Essentially, they're taking work, you'll get doing the work for them. And I think it's really, really important to speak about that. So thank you for bringing that up.
That's the thing. Like when you say I want to go freelance, what does it mean? Like, do you want to work for your own clients? Do you want to work from home? So you first have to define what you mean by that and what's your goal, because you don't really have to work for, companies or direct clients. You can actually work for a couple of agencies, white label the services. Maybe some of them, they will allow you to share that work in your portfolio, and then you can start building clients. I still do that. Like I'm working through some agencies with some clients, and I still have my own clients, and new clients, new agencies. So I think that if you find like a balance, because at the end of the day, an agency is also a client. You don't really have to work with the client, meaning, the company directly. You can work through an agency. And sometimes it's even better because they are going to value the process and the work that you do. They will protect you because they're going to deal with the client. So you have to focus on the fun part, essentially. So it's going to depend. Some agencies, they have kind of like a crappy process, but others that are really good, and I really enjoy working with them. I actually prefer some agencies than some clients, and vice versa. So it's all about like, trying what works for you, and then you can adapt.
Yeah, and I think some freelancers think, I like doing design, I'm going to freelance, and then actually realize that freelancing as a solo freelancer, trying to get your own clients, you're not even doing work, like the creative work. Probably like half the time it's creative work. The other half, you're doing meetings, you're invoicing, you're trying to talk to the client, you're facilitating the soft skills side of things.
Yeah. There are
So
some days that I don't even open Figma, dude. And sometimes it's like when I finally open Figma and I can like sit down with it for like 2, 3 hours, it's like, oh, finally,
yeah,
I'm on my zone, you know?
yeah, it's like therapy. It's so weird. And then you're like, finally, I can move some colors around and do like the fun stuff.
Pushing some
Um,
pixels, yeah.
yeah, pushing some pixels. That's the dream. But no, it's interesting. It's interesting what you say there about, what is freelancing to you? Because I think a lot of people are like, I want to freelance. Like, if you think that freelancing is fun and games the whole time, think again. Like, maybe it would actually be better to work for a small agency where you have a lot of creative control. Maybe that's the thing that you think freelancing offers you in comparison to a full-time job. But actually, maybe the full-time job that you're currently in just doesn't offer you that creative control that you want, and that's what you're really after. So I think, yeah, digging into that is really, really important. We're getting some comments from Ada and Penna who say, in fact, let me put this up on the screen. Ada says, you guys are convincing me to start an agency. I'm still debating how to get started. That's an interesting thing to bring up. I feel like, Ethan, you have the presence of an agency. Let me put your website in the chat, actually, and you will see what I mean, guys, if you haven't yet visited his website. You've done work with some, I guess, pretty, formidable clients. Um, but you've still very much decided that you want to be Ethan Suero. Like, you're not setting up an agency anytime soon.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, the benefits of being a solo freelancer that's establishing themselves, or, deciding whether, hey, maybe I want to actually set up an agency of my own. You've clearly decided not to do that. So why is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a question that we get a lot. And I was actually confused at the beginning because I didn't know that's your branding, right? Do you want to position yourself as, you as the persona, or do you want to build a studio that eventually is going to, grow into an agency or something? So I I knew that I wanted to focus just on work directly with clients and not building a studio, because when you get like a studio or an agency, I think that's like getting more work. You have to start like hiring people. Maybe you will make more money, but at some point, or at least from the people that I know that they run agencies and everything, they don't really do the work anymore, meaning designing things like pushing pixels, and they are like managing and directing things. And I quite enjoy like doing the things myself. I like to design myself. I like to build websites myself. I'm already like hiring some people to help me from time to time. When I say yes too often and more that I should, like maybe I get in more projects, so I delegate, and that's actually something that I learned to do over the last year. But I enjoy still like doing my work and everything. And if I decide to go at some point for a studio or an agency type of thing, at the beginning, I think it's going to be quite difficult because, whatever the name of the agency is, nobody knows that. And I think, based on, what's happening and everything, that my name is already, like when people say in the industry, or, that they heard my name, they quickly relate me to Flux Academy or Webflow, and that's what I want, because I'm already like positioning my name and myself into that. So I am my own branding, and that's how I decided to do things. But there's not really wrong or right thing to do it. It's depending how do you want to build a business. I know another friend that he didn't want to go for type of like a freelance type of way. He wanted to create an agency and hire people, and at some point, like, don't do anything, just delegate everything 100% and make more money essentially, and that's fine. But I think that you have to think, what do you want to do in the future, and how do you want to approach things, and then you can decide if positioning yourself as a you, or a type of like a studio, or like a multi global agency, maybe more like a local agency or boutique or whatever it is. It's going to depend on the goals.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting point, that it just depends on what you want to do in the future as much as what you want to do in the present moment. Like in the present, you might be thinking, I want to earn loads of money. But in the future, like that means you're going to be having to probably manage a lot of people and high levels of stress. You've got to do payroll potentially, or you've got to at least, kind of change your skill set from design to more like being a manager. And yeah, it's not necessarily appropriate for everyone. I misinterpreted Ada's question there. She actually was asking how to become a freelancer for agencies. How do you start that process? And actually, it's really, really weird you asked that, Ada, because someone messaged me on Twitter to ask about that. And the advice that I gave him was, first of all, loads and loads of agencies have newsletters and things like that. And I would recommend just signing up to their newsletter and just like getting to know them, because there are tons and tons of agencies out there. And like Ethan kind of alluded to, there's tons and tons of people that have set up agencies and they don't necessarily have good processes. They're kind of starting out and they're not the best people to learn from, and they're not very reliable sometimes. So, and I've had some experiences with agencies where I've been owed a lot of money and the founder's kind of shady and there's no contracts involved and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, first step, if you want to freelance for agencies, I'd recommend just getting to know the agency, just that you feel them out, follow the the people that work there on Twitter and see what they're like. So that's my first thing that I would recommend. And then the next thing that I would do is, if you like their work and you see yourself wanting to do more of that type of work, then reply to their newsletter. And that might seem like the weirdest advice, but this was how I started working for a couple of agencies. I followed the founder, and then I just replied to the newsletter that he sent out, and he was like, oh, hey, like no one ever replies to my newsletters, thanks so much. And we started talking, and that led to work. And the thing is that's good about that is that instead of like sending an email being like, hey, I want some work, which pretty much everyone does, you're actually showing interest beyond getting money. And I think that's like a really, really amazing thing that we all want, like as creatives, we want people to take an interest in the creative work we do, and for them to feel important. And if you do that, then you're instantly standing out from other freelancers that are just being like, hey, here's my portfolio, please hire me. Which in my opinion isn't nearly as compelling. So that's my advice. But Ethan, maybe you've got different advice, or maybe on top of that, you might have tips and tricks for Ada to get hired by agencies, because it sounds like you've had a lot of experience there.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, because in general, LinkedIn has worked for me like wonders. So I've been, creating like a relevant network, because usually what many people do, or I did at the beginning, and this is kind of cool, but it's not going to bring you work in a way, maybe, but it's not as directly. So we usually just, connect with other designers and inspiration type of people and things like that, but we don't really connect with the relevant people that it might, bring us work. So what I did is to, not really reach out, but I was just connecting with, creative directors, art directors at different agencies that I liked. And then when you post your work, or your projects and everything on LinkedIn, they're gonna see it. And if they need your services, because maybe you are specialized in packaging or brand identity, or just focusing on logo design or web design, I don't know, Webflow, which is in high demand at the moment for many agencies. If they are, because sometimes they are not going to say no to you because it's due, it's because they are not really ready yet for that service, or because they don't really need it. So for example, now Webflow is high demand, you are gonna get a lot of yes, maybe not for other type of services that are not really in high demand. So building a relevant network was one. Go to the careers pages, because a lot of agencies, they actually advertise positions at freelance or remote. They are usually for projects or for a few months or something. It's not going to be like a part-time or full-time. You can actually work on your own time. It's basically like they are going to be your client and not the other way around, or like an employer or something. And other things is that I would say is just, reach out to the agencies that you like. If they offer, in my case, for example, I reached out to some of them that they were doing like really cool Webflow websites. And I know that they were like focusing solely in Webflow. So I decided to reach out because I love their work and how they do things. So that's something that you can do as well. Sometimes they're not going to reply, but they will reply as well. And lastly, and this actually brought me maybe the most, it's my network, because I know people that they offer other stuff like visual identities or brand strategies, and they know me as the Webflow guy or the digital type of designer. So when they need that, they actually refer me, to agencies or the other way around. In some agencies, they came to me like, this guy, they talked about you, and we are looking for a web designer or Webflow developer. We look at your portfolio and we love your work. We would like to work on this particular project that we have. Maybe we can jump on a call, you discuss further, something like that. So that's how it usually happens. And again, it takes a little bit more because you have to first build your network. But that's really important, because when you have like a relevant network, you don't really have to do marketing anymore, because how you do things and how you talk to people and everything, they are going to be doing the marketing for you. So yeah.
Yeah, word of mouth marketing is probably the strongest form of marketing. Like if someone who's already got authority in the space is saying, hey, Ethan's good, or Ada's good, or Penna's good, or whoever's in the chat watching, hey, that's going to be way better than you being like, I'm really good at Webflow. So yeah, definitely makes sense. Got so many great points dropped there. LinkedIn, add creative directors to your network. They might not be looking to hire you right now, but if you keep coming up on the feed with showing off your creative work, then that's going to be invaluable. Reply to newsletters with thoughtful replies. And also, I think just being in the space and doing the work is naturally going to create brand authority and trust, and it's going to get easier and easier to get agency work. If you get one agency, let me tell you this, Ada, if you get one agency that you consistently freelance with, you can get another agency, like no problem, is my experience with it, because it's like, hey, I've already worked for these guys. And then they're like, oh, okay, so you know how an agency works, you know how to kind of do the different elements of Webflow, whether that's talking to clients, like, you kind of can do it. So you're going to get this. I 100% back you. Ada, come along next week and tell us if you are working for an agency, or DM me and Ethan. I'd love to hear if you did. If anyone else has any questions while we're on the stream, by the way, please feel free to ask them away, because I want to try and keep this to an hour. And we've only done one failure, guys, because we've been talking about strategy so much. Let's talk another failure here with Ethan then. Managing projects. You alluded to the fact that you were working a full-time job, taking on projects. You've been working for agencies. You've been trying to get your own client projects. You've been trying to network. You've been trying to do everything. And it sounded like you got really close to burnout, if not hit burnout. Talk about managing projects with us.
So I think that it's everything related to managing expectations. And sometimes I get like really stressed about, like, when a client asks me how long it's going to take the design. Usually I'd say, you know, a week, maybe take me that week, but sometimes it's 2 weeks. And I try to make it on time because I already said it. And that's how you start to burn it out, because you are like making those promises and you want to deliver. And maybe sometimes I wanted to do more that I should have done. I managed to do it, but that was affecting, I wouldn't say my health, but it was like a lot of stress. I couldn't sleep and it was like a lot of pain. So, you know, working weekends and things like that. So if you can manage expectations, like we only work Monday to Friday, these hours, and then outside of that, we are not going to make any progress. Another thing, it's like chasing clients, because sometimes, or if not multiple times, they expect you to deliver like on time, but then they don't really have to do that. They can take the time that they need and still hope for you that the website or whatever it's going to be delivered on time, which is obviously, if a plane is going to take off with a delay, it's not going to land at the same time. So it's that, and that's actually something that is still happening, like nowadays. So I usually try to make everything, like, it's all about the process, I would say. So I try to break down my process into different tasks with dates and milestones, not just for me, but also for the client. Like if I need something from them, they will need to deliver that in a day or two, or whatever their deadline is. Otherwise, that's going to affect the project. And if it happens, I'm fine, because they've been informed and that's on them. So all the pressure is not just only coming to you as the you know, the designer or the developer, but also the clients. They have to commit, because sometimes we have to understand that they're managing a business, but we also managing a business. So we have multiple projects, we have different priorities, and they can't really give us the attention when they want, and then expect us to deliver on time. So that's something that took me a little bit to understand and to actually get right, which I'm still like not getting. It's not perfect, but I feel that I'm getting there and being more honest with the clients. How much time do I need? Do you need to deliver this on time? Otherwise, this is going to affect the project, and you have to be transparent with your clients, because otherwise, like I said, it builds a lot of stress.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a couple of things that I feel, you know, might be relevant to you, to your experience as well, in terms of like when you change your process slightly, it can relieve a lot of stress by, you know, budgeting some extra time into the project by saying, hey, this is going to take me a week and a half. Even though you think you can probably get it done in 3 days, like it's way better to deliver the work early to the client than to deliver it late, even if it's the client's fault, because a lot of the time, they're like abusive partners.
Mhm.
Not that I've had an abusive partner, by the way. My girlfriend's watching. Yeah, but yeah, I think a lot of the time the client kind of, yeah, will just be like, hey, I want attention now, and you're just like, oh, you didn't reply to me for a week, and I needed the assets, so thanks for turning up. So yeah, I think budgeting time into it, and then also the other thing that I would say is using the word collaboration at the start of, in the first meeting, by saying, look, we are collaborating. If we take on this project, we're taking it on together. It's not like you pay me, I go to my design cave and just bust out the work and then hand it back to you. This is a collaboration. I need you to get me things or get me feedback within 3 days. Are you agreed on that? Yes. Great. Like setting out the expectations from the get-go, I think is really, really important. And using the word collaboration, I found has really, really helped, because it's like we're on the same team. You know, it's not me versus you. It's not like a standoff. You know, if assets aren't here, let's try and get them together. Like, you know, you're struggling to get photos done. Okay, have you tried just using an iPhone? Just going, you know, let's just do that for now as version 1 of the website or whatever. So yeah, managing boundaries, I think, is a very, very difficult part of freelancing and life generally. Do you feel, Ethan, that you have learned to say no better? Because I think at school growing up, it's always like you should be saying, I don't know, yes seems to be like, the customer's always right. Well, the customer's not fucking always right, as we know as freelancers. Have you learned to say no better? Because I think that's a big part of transparency, and it's often something that's quite hard to manage.
I mean, that was actually quite an issue that I had at the beginning. And it might be because, we were in a lockdown and I was saying yes to every single project because I didn't have anything to do. I was just, locked down in my home, working, making websites. But I wouldn't say that I was hating my job at some point, but it was like a lot of, pressure. I wanted to do something else. I love design, but if you start like abusing about that, it's going to feel like something that you must do, even though you might not feel, that you wanted to do it that day. So yeah, at the beginning I was saying yes to tons of projects. Even I think at a time I had like 12 websites or something with me. I was working 10 to 12 hours per day, 7 days a week. It was crazy. So yeah, it was a lot of work. And sometimes what you have to say is, we don't have the availability at the moment. If you want to book a project, you will need to, I can book you in 2 months, in a month, few weeks, whatever it's going to be. Maybe if I don't really see that I'm going to enjoy that project, like for example, e-commerces, I find out that I don't really enjoy. So I say no, because I don't think that I'm going to deliver a good service. And it's not really nice because I don't really enjoy doing those projects. Maybe if I see some red flags or something, you can always say, no, maybe we are not the right fit for you. But yeah, I've been accepting clients that I had to fire a couple of times because it was my mistake for not seeing those red flags. I've been taking more projects that I could take and projects that I didn't really was enjoying. And so, yeah, but I wanted to please everyone. And that's the problem. As designers, I think that sometimes we want to please everyone. And that's not something that we really should do, especially if we are going to be affected in terms of stress, health, or whatever. At the same time. So yes, now I'm saying no to the things that I don't enjoy or the things that I don't want to say.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad that you have clearer boundaries and that you have hopefully more time as well. And it sounds like, coming back to the earlier point, you've also raised your prices, which hopefully has deterred the overworking that you had. So you mentioned red flags there. For anyone that's watching that's just starting out in their design career and doesn't necessarily know what red flags to look out for, what red flags do you wish you knew about that you now know about?
I mean, the thing is that sometimes they are not really that obvious, and you realize when you start working with a client. There was a client, I had to actually fire them. I gave them the full refund because I prefer to, I wasted a few weeks on the project, but I decided to part ways earlier, give them the full refund because it wasn't even worth it. And if we keep working on those type of clients, it's going to affect essentially your business because they are going to drain you basically. So some things sometimes that I didn't really see, they get like really demanding on the quality because sometimes, some clients, they don't really have a lot of money. And, maybe 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K. For some clients, it's really nothing. But for other clients, it's a lot of money. So they try to get sometimes more value of, what they're paying for. And in resulting in lots of revisions and more things that are not really included. They get like super picky with the development type of phase, and maybe they are not really delivering the designs expecting you for guess things. So when there's like a lack of communication and a lot of high expectations from your side. Like, we expect this to be, delivered on time, no bugs. It has to be perfect. It has to be working on all of the devices or whatever. And we want to pay you 2K. You know what I mean? That's something that it's not really like on the same page. And yeah, I made a mistake to say yes to a couple of projects like those, especially when I was starting out. And yeah, I suffered the consequences. I learned from my mistakes, and yeah, that's how you learn, I suppose.
Yeah, I found it really useful to have like a beer policy, which is like if I would want to go for a beer with the person that I'm talking to, then they're a good client. And I know that sounds insane, but that rule has worked really well for me so far. Like, I think you just know in your gut whether you're just like, I vibe with this person or I don't.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you need to, want to marry every single client that comes your way, but just like, would I be out for going for a beer with this person? Do they have interesting things to say? Like, are we going to get on enough to hang out for a couple of hours? If that's a yes, then that's a good sign, because ultimately you will be spending a lot of time with this person. And if they're an asshole from the first meeting, doesn't matter how much money they have, they're still an asshole. So yeah, to use that well-known phrase. Okay, very, very important points there. I'm really glad we talked about red flags, because that was one of the things that I feel like you have learned a hell of a lot from, having done so many projects when you were starting out, just like boom, 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 with 12 projects that are maybe
Yeah,
not.
tell me about it.
Yeah, you out of everyone I know, like for someone that's about in their kind of mid to late 20s, that's you've done a lot of that.
I appreciate that, dude.
What was that?
I appreciate that you think that I'm in my, 20-ish. So
Oh
yeah.
wait, sorry. I don't know if you want to tell this on the live stream. Maybe I'll message you after about that age. But yeah, okay. Well, I thought that. Ada says, so true. I'm really, really glad that this is resonating with the guys who are watching right now. I appreciate you for coming to episode 3 in the early days of Webflow. So the last failure that you talked about was delegating. Is delegating in response to, now that you're a more established Webflower, you have hired like a project manager, or talk to me about what in what regards do you see delegating as something that maybe you should have done earlier?
So delegating is actually one of the best things that I've done, because like I said, instead of saying yes to 12 projects and taking the 12 projects by yourself, you can say yes to those 12 projects, and maybe you can delegate 2 or 3. So you can focus on the ones that you want to do, or the ones that might need more attention. In my case, it's been mostly like hiring developers for building websites in Webflow. Sometimes clients, they come to me and they will provide me with the design. So I have some developers that, if the website is not really complex, or I think that they will do, it's something that we can deliver on time, I'm happy to delegate that to one of my developers. And then you can focus on other projects, but still like managing, because it's not taking that much of time. You're gonna make still income out of it, or revenue, and then you can help another friend, which it can be your designer or your developer, and you can take more projects at the same time. The only thing is, because I never like kind of work as the project manager or whatever. I usually just manage my projects, my designs, my development, and everything. But when you have to manage somebody else, they have, their own way of doing things. They might not be, they might not have the same attention to detail, so you have to review the projects. And sometimes at the beginning, I didn't know if I was hiring the right person. That's on me fully, because I didn't do my due diligence about the background of the projects, maybe reviewing the mistakes that they might make. And I've been, maybe I deliver some of the projects to clients for review. Then they find out about issues that I didn't know, because I was trusting too much, maybe. So those type of things that at the beginning, because it was something really new in my case. So I heard some people that if it worked out, but other people it didn't work out. So that was something that because it was like a new phase, I would say.
So that's a really interesting point that you make there. So even though you're a freelancer, you can basically set up some kind of referral scheme with other freelancers, and you can either refer the project and take some of that money so you get paid by the client, and then you can refer the project, or you might just have a group of freelancers that you're hiring to do the work for you. And then do you present the work to the client, Ethan, when you do that? Or
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
it's not always developers. So because like I said, I know an agency in our studio. I'm just me, and I focus on my services. But if we require some things like motion design, for example, I don't do. But sometimes I offer the client so they can, don't stress about that. I will add that to the proposal. I will hire somebody so we can create that asset in particular, or an illustrator, or maybe a developer because we need some type of custom code for whatever it is. So if I'm still offering those services through somebody else, and sometimes I made the mistake of hiring someone because maybe it was like a short amount of time. We needed to deliver something, but the quality wasn't really there. Sometimes freelancers, they ghost you, so that's not something that only happen with clients. It also happens with freelancers. So yeah, that was actually something. I wouldn't say it's a failure, but it's I made mistakes, and again, learn from them, and then try to avoid them so they don't happen anymore.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. And I guess over the years, you've now got a trusted group of freelancers that you collaborate with on projects, depending on when you need them. You've got a motion designer, you might have a designer, developer, whoever, and you can kind of call on them when needed. And that's another thing to say, by the way, if anyone's watching that is thinking about setting up an agency, you can be a freelancer, but essentially instead of making an agency, you can be a freelancer that pulls on different people's skill sets as and when you need them, just like an agency kind of would do. So that's another thing to mention, that if you're thinking, oh, should I set up an agency? Should I not? You don't necessarily need to be like jump straight into an agency or freelancer. There's a hybrid model that Ethan's talking about here that I think is really, really important to highlight. Well, we've covered all the amazing failures / mistakes. We've covered the learnings from them. I think just to round up this amazing interview, it would be important to say that the failures are not really failures. They're more just mistakes that are very natural. What I think is amazing about you, though, Ethan, is that you have found mentors, you found people that are ahead of you, and you've basically kind of learned from their mistakes so fast. Like, you've grown so fast, and as a result, you've like made your own mistakes. You've also like learned from those so quickly. So you've had this kind of like incredible momentum as a designer and Webflower. So it's really inspirational to hear from you.
Yeah,
And
I would say that I always try to be the dumb person in the room so I can learn from the rest. So, and that's how I would say that I went like from zero to where I am like fairly quickly. And I'm still trying to do that. Like if you come surround with people that are smarter than you, you're gonna be learning always. If you are the smartest person in the room, you have to move on to, another room.
yeah, definitely. And whether that room is an online space, I would recommend, like if you're just starting out, I'd recommend joining the Webflow party with Melissa Mendez, who I interviewed in episode 1. That's a really great community to learn from people that are ahead of you. And, if you want something that's like the next step, if you're a creative entrepreneur, I know the Creative Companion Club that Jay Klaus runs is really, really good. You might already know Webflow and you might try and be selling digital products. And maybe that community has a group of people that are smarter than you and way ahead of you in that field. So I second that. Join a room with people that are smarter than you and better than you in whatever you're trying to get good at. But also recognize there are tons and tons of online communities that, there are those people hanging out and willing to chat and share, just like Ethan has done so vulnerably and admirably today. Thank you so much, Ethan. If there's any other questions that people have, drop them in the chat right now. But if not, while people are thinking / doing that, what I'm going to do is just round up the lessons that we've learned from today. I mean, there are so many, but we started off talking about the challenges facing people when they switch from full-time role to freelancer. Essentially, there are a lot of soft skills that people just don't realize you need as a freelancer. They jump straight into freelancing. And I think, as Ethan did, starting by getting part-time work from an agency is a great way of kind of moving in the direction of freelancing without jumping two-footed tackle into freelancing just for your own clients. Off the back of that, we also learned that you can, as a freelancer, just work for agencies. You can have 3 agencies, however many agencies, just giving you consistent work. And that is perfectly fine. Working out what you want as a freelancer and making freelancing work for you is going to be key for your success as a Webflower. We talked about managing projects and how actually freelancing isn't all fun and games. It's not just moving pixels. You actually need to manage stuff and do calls and things. So we need to work out what we're good at, manage, and delegate the parts of the business that we don't like or can't do. And that's an important part of freelancing as well. And then client red flags, we talked about clients that rush you, clients that are needy, clients that you wouldn't want to have a beer with. It would save you just don't do that project. And also another learning that I think is important to bring up as well, just to round this off, is that you don't need to be getting 10K clients in the first year of freelancing, regardless of whatever, someone trying to hawk a course to you is saying. I got 10K clients, follow my script. You don't need that. You don't need that. And it's absolutely fine to just get consistent clients that are paying a little bit less. That's fine. You're starting out. Get good. You're going to get the good money. That's fine. But just do the good work right now. Felix has just dropped in the chat. Missed most of it, but I can't wait to listen to the replay of this one. Damn right, Felix. It's going to be a good episode for you, my boy. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on the Webflow podcast. It has been an honor interviewing you. It's great to see you again, and I'm excited to see you progress through your learnings that you've shared so much with us. Ada, if you have an agency job by the end of next week, I'll send you PayPal details of both me and Ethan. You can drop us that. But I really, really hope that works out, and I hope everyone got a lot from this episode. Ethan, is there anything you'd like to say as we round up here?
No, just thank you. Thank everybody who's tuning. I hope that I shared some, value out of the conversation, because I was kind of nervous, if I'm honest with you guys. So yeah, I appreciate your invite. And talking about grabbing a beer, we still have to grab a beer. You and me.
Okay, after this thing, I'm gonna I'll message you about Manchester dates.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, thanks a lot, everyone.
Cool.
And Ethan, I'll send you details and everything at the end.
Cool.
Bye, Ada. Bye, Penna. Bye, Felix. Bye, Lauren. Anyone else in the chat? Bye, everyone. We love you loads. I'm ending it now.